I'm Greg Tepper. That's Greg Powers, and this is This Week
in Cruton.
It's This Week in Recruiting. Greg Powers of Next Level Athlete. Follow him on Twitter at GPowersScout. Follow Next Level Athlete on Twitter at NextLevelD1. Hi, Powers.
What's up?
You doing okay?
Great.
You ready for all this nonsense? Because we've all got a busy week next week. You have like a double busy week next week.
Yeah. Well, my ambition is high. I can tell you that.
Uh-oh.
We'll see.
Sounds like you're setting yourself up.
No, but we'll see how you always have an ambitious, like, this is what I'm going to do for signing day, and this is what I'm going to do for the state games. And now we'll see how much of it can actually be pulled off. There are only 24 hours in a day.
Right.
And there are only now
with that attitude
6 work days between now and National Signing Day, and 2 of those I'm off. It's down to 4. So, I mean, if I can pull like a 4 18-hour days, you guys will see a lot of good content. How's that?
TexasFootball.com/recruiting.
Subscribers at Next Level Athlete, of course, will get the unsigned, the best of the unsigned players, which comes out after National Signing Day. So even though we have National Signing Day and all of the work for the state championship games, there's still a vast amount of work to do at NLA whenever we put those lists together of the best prospects in Texas who haven't signed.
Well, and to be clear, it's probably worthy of a reset that, like, when you talk about subscribers to NLA, you're usually talking about colleges.
Right.
You're not talking about consumer. You're not talking about the people who may be listening
exactly.
right now. You're talking about college coaches that, like, yes, fans may be interested in who's the best unsigned players, but colleges are like relying on that kind of stuff.
Exactly. And it was very interesting too, to get into this world and with the THSCA and the Texas high school football coaches to understand how much help that you can really do for kids who are looking at homes D2, D3, NAIA, those type of programs that, as you've covered recruiting, the consumer is usually the big college, but as we do that type of work, you can really have much more of a vast reach.
Absolutely, for sure, and that's one of the things that I always love around here is that we have the because we try to cover as many. It's not just because I think we have more of a high school football focus from there, kind of from high school to college as opposed to college to high school. I think that we have an opportunity to really spotlight some kids who otherwise wouldn't get spotlighted. In any case, let's talk about This Week in Recruiting.
Let's talk about the big timers.
Our prospect on the rise this week is Garland 2021 wide receiver Jordan Hudson. Yesterday picked up an offer from Arizona, his third Power 5 offer with Kansas and Oklahoma State. For Garland, this was a bit of a down year for them, but at the same time, this guy showed out. 79 catches, 1,270 yards, 20 touchdowns. When you got those kinds of numbers, you're going to get noticed.
And I think his list is only going to rise from here. When you're 6'1", pushing 180, 185 pounds, a lot of colleges are really going to take note. And Garland is really on the rise as far as prospects are concerned. They had a good amount of underclassmen last year that kind of stood out. I did go to the game where they got beat up on a little bit by Lakeview Centennial, but Jordan Hudson was one of the best players on the field, probably the second best player on the field behind Kamar Wheaton, who's a big-time running back for Lakeview Centennial. Gets off the line really quickly, drives defenders off the football, runs good routes, and has good hands. Jay-Sean Powers is another guy to watch there, and Chase Biddle, another prospect at Garland to keep an eye on in that 2021 cycle. Plenty of coaches are going to be coming through there.
He's a guy to keep an eye on, 6'1", 180 pounds, looks the part, and a guy who's going to be around next year for the Owls as well. Let's go to our commit of the week. Our commit of the week, we're going down south of 20 in the DFW Metroplex.
Very DFW-focused recruiting notebook this week and out of state.
Yeah. Cedar Hill offensive tackle Courtland Ford has pulled the trigger. He had offers from a lot of different places, LSU, Baylor, Minnesota, Texas Tech, and more, but ends up committing to USC, who this is actually rather interesting because there is a little bit of a pipeline from Cedar Hill to USC.
Yeah, there is.
I remember Cedric Ware went there.
Yeah, that's the name that popped to the top of my head as well. Had a pretty decent career there. Courtland Ford is a guy who really came out of the early recruiting gate swinging, picking up a lot of offers, had committed to LSU, backed off of that commitment to LSU to explore new options, and has that true left tackle look. I mean, you won't come across many more guys who on the hoof look better than him as an offensive line prospect.
Yeah.
I do think that he has the size and power to possibly play on the interior in college as well, so he can be versatile in that regard. Long arms, good wingspan, and I still think his best football days are ahead of him as he develops and matures in the strength and conditioning program once he gets to a school like USC. And second offensive tackle commit from the Lone Star State for the Trojans in recent weeks as he joins Barbers Hill offensive tackle Casey Collier on that Trojans commitment list. I wonder if California people think all of our Texas high school schools end with Hill.
Yeah, I was going to tell you. Yeah, but he is a guy who, when you take a look at what he's been able to put together, he was a former LSU commit at one point. This is a guy who is the number 67 recruit in our DCTF Top 100. I know he's in our recruiting edition, the new recruiting edition, which is subscribers are getting now. It will hit newsstands next week. But that is a guy that I know has been on our radar for a while. And, of course, when you're at a place like Cedar Hill, you're probably going to get noticed.
Well, when I think I first saw him on the practice field at Cedar Hill when he was at the spring of his freshman year, and he was a monster then.
Mm-hmm.
You know, huge guy, and at that time they had another offensive line prospect who moved. I think he played for Atascocita this year, Jamarcus Bailey.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, between Jamarcus Bailey and Courtland Ford, the future of the Cedar Hill offensive line is looking pretty nice. Of course, Jamarcus moved, but Courtland Ford has a chance to be something special at USC.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, man, that was a big sneeze. I'm sorry. I'm good.
Are you?
Yeah.
Bless you.
Whew, thank you, Powers.
Everyone tweak Gazoon
Thank
tight.
you.
Everyone put Gazoon tight in the comments. It's Greg Powers, the next level athlete. Join us on This Week in Recruiting. Let's get to our underclassman of the week. Our underclassman of the week, we're going to Cedar Hill's rival. DeSoto quarterback Samari Collier has pulled the trigger. He is committed to Lovie Smith in Illinois. He had an offer from New Mexico State, but this is a guy who, we had questions coming into the year about what the offense was going to look like with Claude Mathis's return to DeSoto. Well, Samari Collier was a big reason why they had a breakout year. A guy who threw for 33 touchdowns and more than 2,600 yards. This guy was sharp. This guy was a breakout star for this Eagles team, and Illinois seems like they're getting a good one.
Yeah, I like his upside too. I think a lot of people are going to think, when you look at his statistics, he rushed for 472 yards, that he's probably more of a dual threat, but I think he's more of a pocket style passer. He works well outside of the pocket and can make some things happen to extend plays, but I think he's more of a pass-first type of guy. At least that's my impression of him when I've watched him live on the couple occasions that I saw DeSoto this year. And Illinois is certainly trending, not only in recruiting. They have a pretty good recruiting staff there with former North Shore assistant coach Joe Price now on staff there. Lovie Smith's a great recruiter with Texas ties. I think we're going to continue to see the Fighting Illini come into Texas, and if they don't land a bunch of players, they're certainly going to uncover a bunch of players. And 6-6 this year, so their product on the field is starting to trend upwards as well.
Right, and that's something that I think is going to be really interesting to watch is what kind of impact can they make in Big Ten country coming down to Texas and getting a foothold down here. But DeSoto, there's a good place to start. Samari Collier is an outstanding quarterback that, it's going to be really interesting to see what he does as a senior. I think that there's going to be a lot of hype around There's always a lot of hype around DeSoto. Feels like there's going to be hype because of their quarterback this year.
Right. One interesting thing that I find to watch when you're talking about a DeSoto quarterback is when they go to college, there's a chance the receivers were more talented. There is a chance that the receivers at DeSoto are going to be more talented than the receivers he plays with in college, and that is going to take an adjustment. It may not be a true statement when you say that, but certainly DeSoto's receivers are really good.
Absolutely. Finally, let's get to our recruit of the week. Our recruit of the week is a guy who's having a pretty good week. The four-star receiver from Frisco, Lone Star Marvin Mims, is now the single-season receiving yards record holder. He has now 2,438 yards, 31 touchdowns. Passing, who was the previous guy?
Stephenville, Colby, or
yes.
Cody, or...
Oh, my gosh.
It starts with a C.
I know it's a great place, texasfootball.com/records, that I will need to update this now. But I should be able to get hold on.
You should wait to update it until you see what
Cody
kind of
Cardwell. That's right.
what kind of numbers that
Got it.
Mims puts up over the next
Right.
possibly at least one more week, maybe two.
This is a guy who's the number 28 prospect, Oklahoma commit, longtime Stanford commit, now committed to Oklahoma, and he is a guy who is a Mr. Texas football finalist and a guy who has Frisco Lone Star playing for a shot at AT&T Stadium this week.
When does when do we announce the Mr. Texas Monday? Okay, so this weekend's games will be like the.
I mean,
The
it'll be
final
the
determining factor.
it'll be the final data point. I'll say that. Yeah, we're gonna have to have a conversation because I think that there's a lot of really good players who are still playing right now, who are finalists that could have a say in Mr. Texas football. The numbers are really, really good for Marvin Mims, and he has been a superstar.
Yeah, I think my top. I mean, of course, Jaquinda Jackson's been doing some great things at Duncanville, but my personal two for Player of the Year, if I had to say, like rank them 1 and 2, are Mims and Jackson Smith and Jigba.
Mm-hmm.
I think those two guys make the strongest case. So I'm going to go ahead and put it out my case for what maybe could be Mims getting that award, because we've seen Jackson Smith and Jigba already rack up some impressive hardware. Rockwall, of course, has a big game this weekend against Duncanville.
Mm-hmm.
But what Mims has done has been mighty impressive, and I think if you took either one of those two guys off of their team,
Yeah, it's true.
they're not the same team.
Yeah.
And the same could be said for Jaquinda Jackson as well. The question I think remains in my mind is Marvin Mims is the number 28 prospect in the DCTF Hot 100. We've had him rated considerably higher than every other service up to this point. Now that's kind of catching up, as people elevate him behind the success of his senior season and the statistics that he's been able to put up. The question now is up to us as how high will he rise in our rankings.
He's been a
I
star.
think he's still underrated, maybe right now at number 28.
Big challenge this week against Denton Ryan, and interested to see how he does.
I think that's one of the best matchups for the playoffs, because the Austin Jordan kid at Denton Ryan, who's a sophomore cornerback prospect, is super special. And if they move him around, Denton Ryan still has the players to match up with him.
Mm-hmm.
DJ Arkansas is a very good talent. They have another cornerback who's getting a lot of looks. So that's going to be a heck of a game.
It certainly is. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're, of course, going to have complete coverage for you at TexasFootball.com. He is Greg Powers of Next Level Athlete. Follow him on Twitter at GPowerScout. Follow Next Level Athlete on Twitter at NextLevelD1. See his fine work at TexasFootball.com/recruiting. Powers, appreciate your time, and I guess I'll see you Tuesday, right?
Yes, Tuesday, and we'll be off for this week and recruiting next week for nationals. We'll have National Signing Day content and state championship coverage.
Correct. We'll have state championship coverage, and then we'll pick this thing back up in January.
Sounds good.
So, bye forever.
Woohoo.
Let's do it.